Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Villa Olivia. I'm from the 9th group. And then in this discussion, our material about ethnographic design. Okay, let's start it. I will explain about the theory of research. Ethnographic design are qualitative research procedures for describing, analyzing, and interpreting a culture, sharing groups, and sharing patterns of behaviors, beliefs, and language that develop over time. Central to this definition is culture, and then also the culture is everything having to do with human behavior and belief. By Lecomte, Preisel, and Tates in 1993. Okay, next. According to Thomas and Zainicki in 1922, construct a view of life of police, immigration, educational ethno-anthropologists focus on subculture groups such as career and life histories. Number 2, microethnographics of small work and leisure groups within classrooms or schools. The third is studies of single classrooms. The fourth is studies of school facilities or school districts that approach that units as disparate or etc. And then okay, enough. Let's have 4 items. And then next material is what are the key characteristics of ethnographic design? Okay. When the diverse approach to ethnography identify in realist case study and critical approaches, it's not easy to identify characteristics they study and they have in common. The following the characteristic typically illustrate namely is there is a culture. In culture, ethnography is a general position, declare or imply that is openly approved or promoted in a society or group that can be found in introductory texts in cultural anthropology. And then next is a culture, this sharing group, culture sharing groups. And then share pattern, for example like behavior, belief, or language like this. And next okay, next several elements. Jadi di dalam the key characteristic by ethnographic design ini ada beberapa elements yang mengkombinasikan atau mengkombinasikan antara belief, behavior, and language. I have 3 points. The first is behavior in ethnography is an action, and then a belief is ethnography is how an individual thinks about or perceives thing in a culture setting, and the last is language is an ethnography is how an individual talks or talking or speaking like this. And then ethnographic collect data through spending time at participant site where they live, work or play. Field work in ethnography means that the researcher gather the data. Jadi Di dalam field work ini sebuah etnografi atau peneliti yang untuk mengumpulkan sebuah data. And then this data collected involves the following. There is amic data, is information supplied by participant in a study. And then ethic data is information representing the ethnographer's interpretation of the participants. And negotiation data consists of information that the participant and the researchers agree to use in a study. And then moreover for field work, there is have descriptions, themes, and interpretation. Ethnographic researchers describe and analyze the culture sharing group and make an interpretation about the patterns seen, heard, or a description in interview is a detailed rendering of individuals. In an ethnographic study of conflict resolution between typically developing children and children with disabilities in an integrated preschool. And then a case study examines students' teachers' perspective toward social studies as a subject or non-subject in human relationship. And then context or setting. The context for an ethnography is the setting, situation, or environment that surrounds the cultural being studied. And then the last is researcher reflexivity. Reflexivity in ethnography refers to the researchers being aware of and open discussing his or her role in the study in a way that honors and respect the site and participants. Jadi this is the focus for researcher. And next material is what are the steps in conducting an ethnographic. Jadi apa aja sih langkah-langkah dalam etnografi ini. Nah, let me see. The first and most important step in conducting research are to identify why you are undertaking a study, which form of design plan to use, and how your intent relates to your research problem. Nah, and for a case study, the focus on developing in-depth understanding of a case, such as event, activity, approaches in education. This often includes study of an individual or several individuals. Tadi itu step 1, and step 2, discuss approval and access consideration. Yaitu mendiskusikan pertimbangan di antara sebagai prosedur yang mengikuti apa yang dibutuhkan dari pengidentifikasian from researchers. And then step 3, use appropriate data collection procedures in a realist ethnography, because you will likely spend considerable time with individuals in the field. You need to understand slowly and as unobtrusively as possible. Jadi use appropriate seperti menggunakan interview, drawing, simbol, or etc. And then step 5 is write the report consistent with your design. Jadi menulis sebuah report dengan menggunakan rancangan ethnography in written as an objective report of information about a culture sharing group. So, ethnographic design is a qualitative research. Jadi poin penting di dalam ethnographic design itu adalah penelitian. Sebab penelitian berupa tulisan, karena kualitatif adalah sebuah penelitian yang disajikan dalam bentuk tulisan atau paparan kayak gitu. And the next material is how to evaluate an ethnography. Bagaimana mengevaluasi etnografi ini. Jadi ini the criteria for evaluating an ethnography begin with applying the standard used in the how to evaluate you will need the specific factors. The first factors is like identifies the culture sharing group or a case study, and then focus on the culture concept to recognizing that the concept may be very broad, and then provides evidence to show how this group has established over time pattern of behavior, language, and beliefs, and then engines in fieldwork and gathers the evidence through multiple sources like this. And then shows an analysis of this evidence through a detailed description of the culture sharing group and the context in which it exists, themes that summarize major ideas. And then the last is portrays the researchers as reflecting on their own role in the study and how their background, gender, and history shape the account that they report. Okay, like this. I think enough from my explanation today, and then I have a conclusion from this. In my material conclusion, the conclusion is an ethnography is useful design for studying groups in education, their behaviors, belief, and language, and then how they develop shared patterns of interacting over time. Ethnographic research is a qualitative. Jadi tadi saya udah ngasih tahu kalau ethnographic research itu sama saja dengan qualitative research yang berupa paparan atau sebuah tulisan dalam penelitian, baik itu sharing groups or individuals of some individuals kayak gitu. And then for the steps in conducting this ethnography involves starting with an interest in studying a culture, time identifying about the site, and examining share pattern for a group. Jadi dalam langkah-langkahnya dalam conducting ethnography ini dimulai dalam sebuah pembelajaran yang menarik seperti tema budayanya, untuk mengidentifikasikan dan mengexamine share pattern for a group. Okay, thank you for attention guys, and I say thank you and the last. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.